Well, this week the government finally represented the people when it just completely shut down. Honestly, didn't it feel like the government kind of needed a break? Just so we could all catch our breath? Can you believe we're only 9 months into this presidency? That means we still have 3 months and 7 years remaining. I already tried fighting. I'm tired. I went to so many protests this summer, but honestly, it was worth it because we finally got them to change the Cracker Barrel logo back to the original, featuring my actual...
After imposing tariffs on Mexico and Canada on Tuesday, President Trump reversed them on Thursday. It's a cunning political tactic experts call bipolar disorder. President Trump said the tariff on goods from Canada is to stop the flow of fentanyl, even though last year only 40 pounds of the drug was seized at the northern border. 40 pounds? What's that, like 2 buttfuls?
Donald Trump once tried to silence Saturday Night Live, not because they mocked his hair, but because one joke cut so deep it hit foreign policy. The roast wasn't just comedy. It exposed how the world's most powerful office turned into a late-night sketch. But what did the host say that got Trump dialing the FCC like it was customer service for his ego? The joke that made Trump scream at his TV wasn't about his tan. It was about world peace, sounding like a broken condo deal. On SNL, Colin Jost took Trump's trip to Saudi Arabia and turned it into late-night gold. He described the lavender carpet rolled out for Trump, joking that it matched his tie so well, it looked like the grand opening of a Trump hotel. The audience roared, but the real punchline wasn't in the carpet or the color. It was how the whole event felt like a PR stunt, not diplomacy. Cameras were flashing, Trump was grinning, and all that was missing was a ribbon cutting with oversized scissors. That lavender carpet bit became the center of gravity for the roast. Jost compared Trump's foreign trip to a photo op with better catering, and even joked about a mobile McDonald's truck tagging along in case Trump got hungry between handshakes. The humor worked because it didn't just mock. It exposed how much of Trump's foreign policy looked like a commercial shoot for a brand called Strong Leadership. It wasn't about changing the world. It was about controlling the camera angle, the lavender carpet, the glowing orb photo, the endless applause. It all looked less like diplomacy and more like an episode of Keeping Up with the Cabinet.
It's scary for a lot of people right now, but I'm trying to stay positive and I'm trying to remember the words of a great man.
Nothing bad can happen. It can only good happen.
The last time the U.S. government shut down was during President Trump's first administration in 2018, which was so long ago.
The joke hit people fast. Within hours, clips were everywhere online. Millions of views, looping with captions like Lavendergate and Hotelier-in-Chief. Twitter turned his foreign trip into a meme carnival. People joked that Trump didn't visit Saudi Arabia for peace talks. He went for a lighting check. Even journalists started using the line hotel opening as shorthand for his style of overseas visits. This was the power of satire doing what sanctions couldn't. It simplified the truth. When someone called Trump's diplomacy a hotel launch with bad plumbing, it gave everyone an easy way to describe a complicated problem. Behind the scenes, though, Trump was fuming. Reports said he ranted about being humiliated on live TV, claiming the fake show was spreading lies about him. He even asked aides why he couldn't just shut it down. For a man who branded himself as unshakable, that reaction said everything. The joke didn't question his policy, it mocked his image, and that was sacred territory. Grumpy Trumpy didn't want to talk peace. He wanted to talk ratings. Diplomacy wasn't supposed to be funny. It was supposed to make him look tough.
President Trump, while on his trip, said that Iran has sort of agreed to terms for a nuclear deal in the same way Trump has sort of agreed to uphold the Constitution. Many people in Saudi Arabia were very happy with President Trump's visit to the country because rich Saudis love to fly out thick blondes.
The Democratic National Committee protested President Trump's plans to accept a $400 million luxury jet from Qatar by flying a banner over Mar-a-Lago.
But the world didn't see tough. World leaders who had stood next to him at summits started smiling when reporters brought up SNL. They saw the joke, and whether they admitted it or not, they laughed. In politics, laughter is dangerous. It means people have stopped taking you seriously. SNL managed to pull down the costume of strongman and show the fragile performer underneath. Every time the administration tried to talk about strength, someone would quote the line about the hotel opening, and the image collapsed again. That's why Trump's rage wasn't just about comedy, it was about control. Jost's roast turned his foreign policy into a punchline that Americans and foreigners alike could repeat. It reached places sanctions and criticism never could. When Trump later asked if the DOJ or FCC could do something about SNL, it wasn't random paranoia. It was a reaction to realizing that satire was one of the few things he couldn't spin. Once people start laughing at your power, it loses its weight. And for Trump, that's the nightmare. Being mocked on the world stage and having no lawyer, no press release, no tweet that can make the laughter stop. And if the lavender carpet moment showed his weakness abroad, the chaos waiting inside the White House made things even worse. Because if Trump couldn't silence one comedian on SNL, how was he ever going to silence the people laughing under his own roof? If the foreign policy looked like theater, the White House looked like a season of The Apprentice nobody wanted to win. The SNL roast nailed that comparison. They called it an HR nightmare, saying no one lasts long because it's impossible to serve two masters, the Constitution and Trump's ego. It wasn't far from reality. Inside that building, loyalty meant everything, even more than experience. People came and went so fast, the front desk probably gave out maps instead of badges. Forget resumes. What mattered was how loud you could nod when Trump talked. The jokes weren't even exaggerated. The roast showed a president running his government like a game show. Everyone's job depended on guessing what mood he was in that morning. He wanted loyalty oaths, praise sessions, and tweets that made him look like the second coming of Washington. You'd think working in the White House was the dream job, but this one was more like a workplace from hell. High turnover wasn't a bug in the system, it was the system. Every firing looked like a dramatic TV twist, with surprise exits announced on Twitter like episode cliffhangers.
Trump has signed an executive order giving refugee status to white people from South Africa. I could have sworn that white people had it good in South Africa. Must be the Mandela effect. The Trump administration announced that after face-to-face talks with China, it is lowering tariffs from 145% to 30%, which is a little like OJ bragging about taking the knife out.
And the firing methods? Straight out of prime time. One day you were doing great. The next you found out you were gone when he tweeted your name. The SNL host joked that working for Trump was like working in a blender. You never knew when you'd get chopped. He wasn't lying. The staff meetings could turn into loyalty tests out of nowhere. Trump would stare around the room, expecting someone to pledge devotion like knights before a king. Some played along, others flinched. Either way, it made the place look less like the White House and more like a very tense cooking show. That constant chaos didn't just stay inside. It spilled into policy too. Plans shifted depending on who had survived the latest purge. One week, a national security advisor was shaping foreign strategy. The next, he was packing boxes. The revolving door kept spinning, and the rest of the world noticed. It was like dealing with a company where the customer support number changed every 7 days. Even allies were confused about who actually spoke for America. When SNL turned that into comedy, with sketches showing interns running things because everybody else got fired, it stopped being just satire. It started to sound like journalism.
Israel and Hamas have tentatively agreed to President Trump's plan to end the war in Gaza, and you could tell Trump wrote the plan himself.
A Trump advisor said ICE agents will attend the Super Bowl after Bad Bunny was announced as the halftime performer. To catch all those farm workers who can afford Super Bowl.
Every handshake in that administration looked suspicious. The roast described it perfectly. Every handshake looked like hostage negotiation. Nobody trusted anybody. Staffers whispered in corridors, testing who was on whose side. People joked they'd rather be escorted out by Secret Service than have to praise Trump on camera. Even cabinet members knew a single wrong facial expression could land them on the chopping block. The culture was built on fear and flattery, and somehow both were recorded on national TV every day. The funniest part? Those inside jokes didn't stay inside. They leaked, turned into memes, and by morning were viral. Trump hated that. His brand as a tough leader couldn't survive jokes about how fragile everything around him seemed. SNL skewered that fragility by showing how everyone in his circle acted like contestants trying not to get fired. When he called the show unfair and fake, it wasn't about the comedy. It was about the truth hiding inside it. Satire had turned his management style into a meme, something he couldn't edit or delete.
They quietly approved the generic abortion pill just before the shutdown, and I don't have a joke, but whenever I mention a product on the air, they send me a box for free, so.
President Trump also spoke to a group of military leaders this week, and at one point, he went on a long rant about how good Barack Obama was at walking down stairs. Here's what he said. I'm not going to read it because it's a crazy thing to hear from.
The roast made people see the dysfunction for what it was. The laughter wasn't just aimed at Trump's quirks. It revealed something deeper. He feared those jokes because they stripped away the illusion of control. You can fire a staffer, block a reporter, or rewrite a press release. But you can't fire a punchline. The roast didn't ruin Trump. It revealed him. A man obsessed with applause saw laughter as an act of rebellion. When satire holds up a mirror, it strips away the fancy titles and shows who's really performing. That's why Grumpy Trumpy panicked. It wasn't about politics. It was about pride. Maybe power isn't lost through bad policies, but through becoming a punchline no one fears. Because once people laugh, the spell breaks. Satire isn't just mockery. It's truth sneaking around in a joke. And maybe that's what scares him most, that the laugh track lasts longer than the applause ever did.